Hi, this is Nikki. I am going to be talking about adding a new user in this video. I will go over just a brief overview of the user ID and then talk about the credentials required to add a new user ID and then how to access that area of the system in the Extended Reach software. And then finally, a step-by-step instruction to creating a new user ID. When accessing the Extended Reach software system, you will require a user ID. So when an employee comes on board, if they do need to access the system only, then they'll need a user ID. Now, if that employee also needs to work with cases within the Extended Reach system, they'll require a staff record as well. For assistance with setting up a staff record, just see the user manual. We have some information about that in there. So let's go to our demo screen, and I'm going to walk you through how to set up a new user ID. You would first need to be an agency administrator to access the administration portion of the system. So from administration, you would go to organization settings and scroll down to user IDs and click on user IDs. And this is where we start the step-by-step instructions for setting up this new user ID. So go to Add User ID and just click on that. And now you are in the general section of setting up a new user ID. And as you can see, there are several sections or pieces that are highlighted, and these are required fields. The ones that are not highlighted are not required, but if you would like to fill that in, you can as well. So last name, let's use the example of SpongeBob SquarePants. So SquarePants is his last name. His first name is SpongeBob. I don't know his middle initial. His organization, or our organization he is working with, is the Helping Hands Group. If your agency happens to have more organizations under the agency name, you would have drop-down options here. You can fill in the job title if you wish. And then we need to select an email address. So let's use SpongeBob S for SquarePants at whatever.com. And then we need to choose a password. So you will assign the user a default password, and this password should be at least 5 characters, or it must be at least 5 characters. If you do want to create other password rules, you would just go back to your organization settings on your workspace and you can make some changes there. If you need instruction on that, we also have that information in the user manual. And so I'm going to make up a 5-character, actually 7-character password. And from here, automatically the default is for the employee, or the user, to change their password when they log in. So this is automatically checked, and that will be required of the user. If you don't want them to have to change it, you would just uncheck it. But we recommend letting them make their own password. Also, if you would like to send a welcome email, you would check that. The default is that it is not checked, but basically if you do check it, the user will receive an email at this email address with the login information, including Extended Reach website and the temporary password that you have selected. Then when they log in, they'll be forced to make their own password. Moving down to workspace setup, this is where you determine what type of worker this is. Are they administrative support? Are they a case licensing worker? Or are they a supervisor? So in this circumstance, this is a supervisor, and then you can also determine automatically this stuff is not checked, but you could select to check any of these options. For more details on any of these, just see the documentation following this video. But briefly, for this supervisor, when this supervisor logs in, let's say we only want their display on their workspace to have only workers he or she supervises. Let's say SpongeBob is going to supervise, and only the reports he needs to approve. And that just sort of cleans up his workspace. And let's leave it at that. From workspace setup, there are other options, and you can read the information in the article following this video for these details. These are not required fields, so I'll save some time and not go through those, but you can see details about that if you would like. And now security rights. This is required, so I'm going to go through this piece with you. The security rights, basically, this is the information you will, this is the level of administration or level of security you will give this administrator as a user. So if this user's administrative security should be a full administrator, then you can click on full administrator. From there, you would apply a profile to that full administrator. So there are lots of different profiles you can choose. By selecting a profile, that will automatically populate some of the roles this user would perform. So a full administrator, maybe it's a restricted administrator. And this restricted administrator has several administrative privileges options. So maybe this is a billing administrator, which would be like accounting. Maybe this is a forms administrator, which would be any level of support staff. Maybe this is a staff administrator, which would be like HR. And then if you select, say, staff administrator, and you would still need to apply a profile. And so support staff, let's say. Again, the auto-populated or the populated fields here where the different roles this staff administrator would fulfill are automatically populated. You are allowed, though, however, to make changes to those. And you can see some of these other permissions. You can definitely make changes to all of these. Okay, so once we've made a decision about the role SpongeBob is going to play, let's say he's a full administrator and he has full access, and we are happy with all of these roles he will perform. He doesn't need to be prevented from accessing any confidential information. So we're going to scroll up to the top, make sure everything's filled in, and we'll just click Save. And now you can see all the user IDs under this organization, and SpongeBob SquarePants now has a user ID. So I have covered the concept of a user ID. I have talked about the credentials that are required to set up a user ID and where to access that information. And then we've also gone through the step-by-step instruction in creating that new user ID. Hopefully this has been helpful, and if you need any support with other videos, please go ahead and see the user manual, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.